The steak was perfectly medium rare, the wine was a 2018 Cabernet, and the laughter at table 7 was loud enough to turn heads. My sister, Sabrina, was mid-sentence, her hands moving with that practiced grace she used for her Get Ready With Me videos. My parents were leaning in, their faces glowing under the warm amber lights of Carmel's most expensive steakhouse. Everything was perfect, except for the empty chair. Then, the world stopped. The 3 massive television screens above the mahogany bar simultaneously flickered. A breaking news banner cut through the local sports broadcast. The chatter in the restaurant died down to a low hum as the news anchor's voice filled the room. An Indiana native is making history tonight at the White House. My mother's wine glass paused halfway to her lips. My father's brow furrowed. And then, there I was, national television, 4K resolution, standing in the East Room of the White House, wearing a navy dress that cost more than my first car, standing beside the President of the United States. The silence at table 7 wasn't just quiet. Numb. It was the kind of silence that happens when a lie you've told yourself for 20 years finally shatters. My name, Penelope Ward, scrolled across the bottom of the screen in bold white letters, right beneath the title, National Medal of Technology and Innovation recipient, the same name they had dismissed as meaningless in a group chat only 4 hours ago. Wait, how did we get here? To understand the look on my father's face right now, you have to understand the 20 years of silence that came before this broadcast. You have to understand what it feels like to be a ghost in your own living room. I grew up in Carmel, Indiana, a place where suburban perfection is a competitive sport. In our house, my older sister Sabrina was the undisputed champion. She was the story. I was the footnote. If family life was a solar system, Sabrina was the sun. Everything, my parents' schedule, our finances, the very air we breathed, orbited around her. She was beautiful, yes. But more than that, she was loud. She was the kind of person who could turn a trip to the grocery store into a 3-act play. My parents, God bless them, loved us. But they loved the version of us that was easiest to brag about at a cocktail party. Sabrina just made the cheer squad. My mom would beam into the phone to her sisters. Sabrina's Instagram just hit 10,000 followers, my dad would announce at dinner like he'd just won the lottery. Meanwhile, I was the girl in the basement. I didn't want pom-poms or followers. I wanted logic. I wanted things that worked exactly the same way every time you pressed a button. While Sabrina was perfecting her lighting for a photo shoot, I was hunched over a flickering laptop screen, teaching myself Python and C++. I remember one night specifically. I was 16. I had spent 3 months building a basic scheduling app, something that helped students track their extracurriculars and grades. It had just hit 500 downloads. To a 16-year-old girl who felt invisible, 500 strangers using something I built felt like a miracle. I ran upstairs, my laptop burning my palms. "Mom, Dad, look! People are actually using it! It's working!" My mother didn't even look up from the dress she was pinning on Sabrina. "That's nice, honey. Can you move? You're blocking the light for the mirror." My father patted my shoulder without making eye contact. "Great job, Pen. Hey, did you see Sabrina's latest post? The engagement is through the roof." I stood there, the cooling fan of my laptop whirring in the silence, feeling like an idiot. That was the day I realized, in this house, you only mattered if you were a spectacle. Excellence wasn't enough. You had to be content. I left for Stanford with 2 suitcases and a chip on my shoulder the size of a mountain. People think revenge is a loud, explosive thing. It's not. Real revenge is quiet. It's a slow, steady climb. It's the late nights in the Gates Computer Science building when the janitors are the only ones left. At Stanford, for the first time in my life, I wasn't the quiet one. I was the brilliant one. I stopped trying to explain my work to my family. When I called home, I kept it simple. "How's school, Pen?" "It's good, Mom, busy." "Oh, that's nice. Did you hear Sabrina just signed a deal with a skincare brand? She's moving to Chicago." I would hang up and go back to my data models. I was obsessed with transportation systems, specifically how they fail during emergencies. I watched videos of the 2005 evacuations, the gridlock during wildfires, the chaos of flash floods. People weren't dying because they were slow. They were dying because the information was slow. I spent 4 years building the foundation of what would become Nexus Route. By the time I moved to Denver after graduation, I had stopped expecting my family to understand. I had reached a level of professional success that was starting to get noticed by the Department of Transportation, but in the family group chat, I was still just the person who was too busy with her little computer things. But the universe has a funny way of forcing people to look at the things they've ignored, and my little computer things were about to become a national headline. While Sabrina was in Chicago, posting a reel about the top 5 rooftop bars for summer, the Midwest was drowning. It was late April. A massive storm cell had stalled over the Missouri River Basin. In my office in Denver, the monitors were bleeding red. Nexus Route, the system my family called a cute computer project, was facing its first national-scale test. Most people don't realize that in a flood, the roads don't just get wet, they disappear. And when they disappear, the GPS apps everyone uses, Google, Apple, Waze, often fail. They see a road is blocked, but they don't know the physics of the water. They might send a family in an SUV straight into a flash flood zone because the alternative route looked clear 30 seconds ago. I hadn't slept in 36 hours. My assistant Maya kept putting coffee in front of me, but I didn't taste it. We were manually overriding the AI to prioritize emergency vehicles in 3 different counties. Then, the call came from a sheriff in a small town near the border. "Penelope, we've got a school bus and 6 civilian vehicles trapped between 2 rising creeks. The main highway is gone. If we don't move them in 10 minutes, the current will take the bus." My heart wasn't just pounding, it was echoing in my throat. I didn't call my mom. I didn't text the group chat. I looked at the satellite heat maps and the flow sensors I'd spent 3 years installing. "Sheriff," I said, my voice cracking from exhaustion, "tell them to turn south on County Road 42. It looks flooded on the cameras, but the elevation is 6 feet higher than the main road. The water there is only 3 inches deep. They have a 4-minute window before the upper levee breaches." I watched the GPS pips on my screen, small, flickering blue dots representing human lives. They moved, they turned, and 3 minutes later, the levee broke, erasing the road they had just been on. Everyone in the command center erupted in cheers. Maya was crying. I just sat there staring at the screen thinking, this is what matters. Not the lighting, not the followers, not the branding. The next morning, still shaking from the adrenaline, I called home. I needed to hear a familiar voice. I needed to feel like I belonged somewhere. "Mom, we did it. We saved a bus full of kids last night. The system worked." There was a pause. Then, my mother's voice came through, sounding distracted. "That's wonderful, Pen, truly. Listen, can you call me back? So Sabrina's photographer is here, and the lighting in the garden is perfect right now. She's doing a day in the life vlog, and she wants me to be in the background acting like I'm gardening. It's a big deal for her brand." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was the sound of a bridge collapsing. "Sure, Mom, go garden." I hung up and realized I was saving lives, but I couldn't save my place in my own family. Fast forward to 6 months later. The call from Washington, D.C. didn't feel real. The National Medal of Technology? To me? The girl who fixed the Wi-Fi? I wanted to believe that this was the key, the skeleton key that would finally unlock my parents' attention. I spent an hour drafting a message to the group chat. I wanted it to sound humble, but I wanted them to feel the weight of it. Me. "I have some huge news. I'm being honored at the White House this Friday. I'm receiving a national medal. It would mean the world to me if you all could fly out. I'll handle all the tickets and hotels." I stared at the read receipts. Sabrina, read, Dad, read, Mom, read. 3 minutes of silence. Then the notification ping started. Sabrina. "Ugh, Pen, again with the meaningless awards?" I'm literally in the middle of a contract negotiation with a major jewelry brand. I don't have time for some boring government ceremony. No one even watches those things. Dad, Thumbs up emoji. Mom. Honey, we already talked about this. We're all meeting in Carmel this Friday for a nice family dinner. It's been so long since we were all together. Why don't you just fly home instead? We'd much rather have a warm dinner than sit in a stuffy room in D.C. Plus, Sabrina has a big announcement to make. I looked at the screen. Understood. That word didn't mean I agree. It meant I am finished. The White House was cold and grand. The air smelled like old wood and expensive wax. Standing there, I felt like an imposter until I saw the other recipients. Surgeons who had mapped the human brain, engineers who had put rovers on Mars. They didn't have millions of followers. They had scars, tired eyes, and a sense of purpose that radiated off them like heat. When the president stepped onto the podium, the room went silent. Today, he began, we honor those who see the invisible problems, those who work in the shadows so that others may live in the light. Penelope Ward didn't just build an app, she built a shield for our citizens. As he placed the heavy gold medal around my neck, the flashbulbs of 100 cameras went off. I didn't think about the medal. I thought about Table 7 at that steakhouse in Carmel. I knew exactly what time it was. They would be ordering appetizers right now. Sabrina would be complaining about the bread. My dad would be checking his watch. And then, the TV above the bar would flicker. 2 weeks later, my phone rings. It's Sabrina. Her voice is unrecognizable. Pen, you have to tell them. Tell them it was a joke. Tell them we're close. My sponsors are dropping me. My followers are calling me a monster. Please, Pen, I'm losing everything. I looked out at the Austin skyline from my new office. You didn't lose everything because of me, Sabrina. You lost everything because for the first time, the world saw you exactly the way I've seen you for 20 years. Don't waste your life begging for late love from people who only noticed you after the applause. Choose your future. Protect your peace.